Well, I feel like I'm going to bed. I'm literally like cozied up right now in my office. I was just sitting here and I was like, you know what I haven't done yet for Glowmas? Told a story. And I was looking at my board of all the list of like ideas and like the schedule for Glowmas, and I was like, we can squeeze in a story time. So here we are filming another Knit With Me While I Tell You a Story video. You guys, for whatever reason, seem to really like these. The first one I did, I kind of did it as like a joke because I had talked about it in a video and everyone was like, yes, and so I did it. But then you guys have like loved it. So I'm totally down to keep doing them, especially since Glowmas, these are super easy. Well, they're not easy to edit because they tend to be long, but these are fun to edit. And they're really easy to film because all I have to do is sit here and knit really mindlessly. So we're just gonna do one of these videos today. If you're new to these videos, it's exactly what it sounds like. I literally am just gonna sit here and knit and tell you a story from my life. So let's jump right into it. The story in particular I wanted to tell today is one of my favorite stories to tell because it's just so weird. There's gonna be a little part of it where if you're squeamish about like injuries, I'll give you a warning of like where to skip to so that way you don't get upset. But I just want to like let you guys know. So this is the story of how I won prom queen in high school, but I had to do it in a wheelchair. This is how that all happened. So when I was
a young boy, my father took me to the city.
I have to preface all of this by saying, when I was 16, I don't think anyone could have convinced me that anything was more important than prom. Like, it's kind of embarrassing now, but at the time, I legitimately was like, nothing is more important than prom. Like, I had this is so embarrassing. I had literally, you know those like you like put a bunch of rings together, and I literally had one of those, and it was like countdown to prom, and it was a bunch of rings snaked around my room like 3 months leading up to prom. I'd like made one of those things. This is not an exaggeration. Like, I was so excited for prom. I could not wait. I had been to prom before. So in my school, the way that it worked, I know it works differently in different schools, but in my school, it's a junior prom and then you have a senior ball. And junior prom is you can invite anybody to junior prom of any grade, but senior ball is just the seniors. So junior prom, I had already been to as a freshman and as a sophomore. I got invited by like friends. I hadn't gone with like guys ever. I always just went with like my girlfriends, and we always had a really good time. But this year was like my year. Like, it was my turn to be the person that was going to prom, and I was so freaking excited. I bought a dress like 6 months beforehand. I literally bought my dress in like January. Prom's in like June. Bought my dress in like January. That dress was so beautiful. It was this big, massive, like poofy pink princess dress that was like the dress of my dreams that like I spent way too much money on. But it was like the dress of my dreams. Like, I had always dreamed of going to my prom. I'm telling you, this was like a big deal for me. I'd always dreamed of like going to my prom in this big poofy princess dress. I even bought, oh my God, I even bought extra like skirt to poof it out even more to make sure that I had the poofiest dress at my prom, and I did. I went to a school with like 70 kids though, so it wasn't really hard to have like the poofiest dress out of everyone, but like still, I had the poofiest dress. And I was like so hype. I was constantly, months prior to, I would talk to my mom about everything. I would be like, I need to schedule a hair appointment. We need to do a test round with makeup with my sister because my sister was doing my makeup. I had everything planned to a T. It was my first time having like a date to a dance, which was super cool. And I was like super excited. We like rented the limo, we got the tickets, he got a tux, everything was going according to plan. Like, I had this all planned out. And then 2 months before prom, or I think it was a month before prom, they called us all to the gym and they were like, we are going to have, we had like an assembly about like, don't do drugs or something, I don't know. And they were like, we want, while you're all here like together, because it was the entire junior class, they were like, we're gonna have you guys vote to see who's gonna be on prom court. And up until this point, it had not even been a thought in my little brain that I was gonna like be on prom court, because I was just so excited about like the prom. I wasn't really thinking about the court. That didn't really cross my mind. And so I voted for my friends, and I was in a group of girls that, because my school was so small, it was really cliquey. Like looking back, especially, like our school was definitely very cliquey. There were like the girls who like, there were the girls and guys who like did sports and partied a lot, and then there was like me and my friends who were kind of like the musical theater people, but we were still like, we still did sports too because it was such a small school. We just didn't party. Like it was basically like the partying people, the non-partying people, and like that was pretty much it. And so I was in like the non-partier group, and usually based on past years, it usually went like half of the party group got picked to be on court and half of the non-party group got picked to be on court. That's like how it went in my school. But I had, again, my friends, my other girlfriends, I was like, oh, well, definitely my friend Amber, who I'm still best friends with, first of all, her birthday was on prom, which like we'll get to. But we were all like, we gotta vote for Amber. It's gonna be her birthday, like whatever. We all voted for like a couple other people, like whatever. I voted for all my girlfriends, basically. I didn't even vote for myself. I voted for all my girlfriends because I was like, they deserve it. Like they're so pretty. And so at the end of the day, they announced it over the loudspeaker. And my last name is like a letter that is close to the end of the alphabet. And so everybody, I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, all my friends, like, woo. And then they're like, Hannah blank, my last name. And I was like, and my friend, it was so funny, my friend Rachel at the time, she was like, I told you. And I was like so shook, because you have to imagine, like it sounds so petty and stupid talking about it now because it is petty and stupid, but 16-year-old me, like I had been through a lot to get to the high school point that I was at. Like I was homeschooled all of middle school. I was a weirdo coming in like 9th grade. Like the fact that I had like gotten enough people to like me to vote me onto court was like wild. So I was so excited, and then that's all I could talk about, just like being on prom court, making prom perfect. I knew I wasn't gonna win because it was my friend Amber's birthday, and so we were like, well, obviously we're all gonna vote. My friend group was like, we're all gonna vote for Amber because it's Amber's birthday. A week before prom, this is another thing too, I completely forgot. Oh my God, the story is so sad at the beginning, but it has a happy ending. I took my driver's test and I passed. I got my driver's license. I was literally the most excited I have ever been ever. I was just like so incredibly excited. Got my driver's license, and the first thing I wanted to do was go to, it was like the next day, the day after I got my driver's license, my friend was having this birthday party at Zach, you've met him, the basement. Basically, if you've seen my other videos with my friends, we talked about the basement. But it wasn't the basement at the time, it was just like a house. I didn't know the guys really well yet. Oh my God, this is so random. So I went to this party, and we were not drinking. Like I said, I was not a partier in high school. I was not part of the party crowd. Nobody was like doing anything crazy. But my friend had this really, and I drove there. I drove my own car. And my friend had this really awesome like DJ setup thing that was like, just had like all this professional DJ equipment, because he was like, I don't know, he was rich, like I don't know, like he just had a lot of stuff. He had like random stuff. And so my other friend Zach was doing this DJ thing, and he was DJing. This story is so horrific to talk about. He was doing this DJ thing, right? And we're all in this thing. It's so hard to explain if you haven't seen it, but they basically had like a coliseum in their backyard where it was just like a stone walkway, but it went down in layers because it had to descend to the basement. There was like a door. So you had to descend down these coliseum stairs, and it was all stones, and you just like, it was like, and at the bottom there was a little clearing, and that's where we had the DJ thing set up, and we were all like dancing in the middle of the coliseum. And it was like broad daylight. Like this was not a rager. I was not drunk, which makes the story even worse because like I wasn't drinking or anything. I was just being an idiot. This is where I'm gonna put in the warning that like you might want to stop listening right now because it's about to get graphic. So I'll put a timestamp so you'll understand the gist, like whatever. So I was doing this dance that I had coined as the scarecrow. Oh God, because I watched like the Bring It On movies, and they all did, it was the one with Hayden Panettiere, the Bring It On movies, and this was in like the prime of that, and they did this thing called like crumping, which is a form of dance I know now, but at the time I was like, oh my God, that's so cool, I can crump, and I can. And so I would like do it, I would go to do it, and I would basically just like flail my arms around and like flail my body around and like you just like flail yourself around, like that's what it was. And it was just for fun. Like I was always was the type of person that was just like doing things for laughs. Like I just like being funny, and I like attention. So I was doing this in the middle of the Coliseum, and there was a person behind me, one of my friends named Austin. Zach G was on the DJ thing, and then my friend Amber and my other friend, who I still am very good friends with, James, they were at the top of the Coliseum, and I could see them like laughing about something. It was me. And then all of a sudden I fell real hard, and I was like, why did I even just, the first thought I had was like, why did I even just fall? Like, why did I fall? What? And then I felt the worst. I'm telling you, like, if you get grossed out by like injuries, please skip forward because it's bad. So I was like, I fell, and I was like, why am I in so much pain? Like, what is going on? And I went, and I was holding my knee though, and I was like holding my knee up to my chest, and I was just going, ow, 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 and I was like screaming like, ow, 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 ow. And then I moved my hand to look at my knee, because I was like, I thought I scraped it. My knee was popped out of place. My knee was on the side of my leg. My kneecap had popped out of place and went to the side of my thing. And then I lost it. Like I started screaming at the top of my lungs. And my friend Austin behind me goes, I hear him. He's like, oh my God. And he freaks out. And then Zach G, who's playing the like music, he's like, shut up, because he thought I just fell and was like being dramatic. And then all I remember about this, because it's really like, I really blacked out from pain, I really think, because I don't have a lot of memories of the situation, just what I've been told what happened. But I do vividly remember, before like everything got really blurry, I vividly remember Amber and James at the top of the Coliseum, like running around to the top of the Coliseum and running down the stairs to try to get to me, and I was just like blacked out. So what I was told happened after. Zach, my friend Zach's mom, who I had never met at this point because I wasn't really friends with like either of the Zachs yet, she came down. They got her. And they were like, somebody's got to call 911. And they put a pillow under my head, and my knee was still out of place. My knee was dislocated this entire time. And if you've ever dislocated like a body part, you know, like it is so incredibly painful. I've heard that shoulder dislocations are significantly worse than knee dislocations, but mine was it was the most pain I've ever felt ever, and I've had a lot of injuries. Like I've broken a lot of bones, had a lot of, you guys know if you watch my concussion story time, like I've had a ton of injuries. This was the worst pain I've ever felt. And so I was like laying on the ground of this stone Coliseum, like screaming. They called 911, and of course the 911 because like small town problems, the 911 guy who's like the first responder is also my tech teacher in school, so he knows who I am. He knows exactly who I am, and he's this like tough guy, but I actually like love him. I had class with him senior year, and we became BFFs because he was such a great guy. He retired, and I'm really happy for him. But so he's of course the first responder, so he knows exactly who I am, and oh, I also have to mention to you the funniest part about this is one of the first, and I'm not kidding you, Bible, like ask anybody that was there. There were so many people there because it was a party and everyone was just staring at me like, what happened? And Bible, one of the very first things I started screaming when I went down was prom is in a week. That's all I did. Screaming. Prom's in a week. What am I gonna do? And Zach's mom was trying to be like, what's your dress look like? Like, I bet it's beautiful. Like, she was trying to calm me down, which like, thank God for her. She was so nice. I didn't even recognize her the next time I saw her because I was just like, I was literally blacked out. I was like, prom is in a week. And my Amber was there, and Amber was like, her dress is so pretty. Like, she was crying. Like, everyone was like crying. Everyone was freaking out because this was like bad. Like, this has never happened. And of course it happens to me, the one that gets injured literally constantly. So I'm like, prom is in a week. And my teacher gets there, who's also the first aid correspondent, like the first aid responder. And I'm like, prom's in a week. And he's like, I don't care at all, ma'am. And they were like, we have to move your knee back. We have to pop it back into place. And I was like, no, because that sounded bad. That sounded like it was really gonna hurt if they popped it back in. I was like, absolutely not. And at this point, they had tried to like clear everybody and bring everybody into the house and upstairs. But I heard later, like they could literally hear me like screaming at the top of my lungs from inside the house. And I feel so bad because I feel like I low-key traumatized all of my friends because they were just like, this is traumatic. So I was like screaming. I was like, you are not gonna pop it back in. I was like, you cannot pop it back in. Somebody called my mom, which was a huge mistake because my mom, God bless her, like my mom is such a good person, but my mom in situations like this, it's like a panic. Like, of course it is, because like you hear, oh my God, your kid has their knee popped out. She just like panics. And she was also with my sister at the time, my older sister. They were at a shopping center that was like 45 minutes away from, like an hour away from the hospital, 45 minutes away from the house I was at. And so they were like, my mom was like, call her father's at home, call her father. I have not really talked about my dad on this channel like a lot. Like we haven't really talked about Papa Glow. He's something else. I love my dad like a lot, and I would not be anywhere I am today without him, but he is just like, he's just very chill in situations. Like he's very, very calm, which was actually in this situation exactly what I needed. So they called him, and luckily he was able to come. So he came and he was like, I saw him walking down the stairs and I was like, Dad, this hurts so bad. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was just like talking gibberish, and he was basically just like, I get my knees from him. So, and my mom has first of all, my parents, I got the worst genetics from my parents. My mom has dislocated and had to have surgery on both of her kneecaps. And my dad has dislocated his kneecap like 3 times. So I got my kneecaps from them, first of all. Second of all, so I'm like, it hurts so bad. So he had done this prior, like he's dislocated his knee before. So he, first of all, understands the pain I'm in. And second of all, knows that we need to like get it back in. Because the thing about dislocations is like the second you pop it back in, everything's fine. Like everything's better. All the pain, it's like the pain instantly is like not gone. It still hurts really, really bad, but the pain is a lot better. Like as soon as the pain of it being out is so much worse than when you finally like pop it back in. So he comes down and he's like, Hannah, he's like, I know it's gonna suck. He's like, but you just gotta straighten your leg out. Cause at this point my knee was still like bent. Like it was like in a like kneeling position. He was like, you just gotta straighten your leg out. He was like, I know it's gonna suck, but you just gotta do it. And I was like, okay. I was like crying. I wouldn't let any of the EMTs touch me. And then the second my dad got there, I was like, sure, untrained professional who doesn't know how to do this. Yeah, you straighten my leg out and pop it back in. But I was like, just trusted my dad to like do it. And so he starts like pulling my leg to straighten it and then sliding the knee, like doing the whole thing. I'm not gonna go into detail because I know it's gross, but he starts to pop it back in, and oh my God, it was literally the most painful thing I've ever experienced. It was so incredibly painful. Literally was like screaming, but he was right. He didn't lie to me. The second he popped it back in, I instantly felt like it hurt so bad still. And like, but the initial feeling of it going back in, you feel so much better just instantly. Like your whole body has been like blacked out and tensed the whole time. And then they pop it back in, and then your body just like releases and you feel like a little bit better. And then you feel like worse way later, but we'll get to that. So I'm still sitting here like prom is in a freaking week, and I just dislocated my kneecap. Like I literally, from 16-year-old me, this was like the worst thing to ever happen, like ever to me. This is like, this is one of the worst things that had ever happened to me up until this point. I know I've lived a very privileged life. So I have a dislocated knee. And they're like, we gotta take you to the hospital because like you gotta figure that out. So they loaded me up on a stretcher. They had to carry me out of this coliseum, and I was like crying because anytime I even got slightly jostled, it was like the worst pain. I'm in the ambulance with my tech teacher, and he is it all wrapped up, and he's like, Hannah, because every time we make a turn, I'm like, oh. he's like, Hannah, he's like, I know it really hurts, but like I can't do anything for you. I'm so sorry. He's like, and he's a tough guy. Like he didn't really feel bad for me. Like he was like, I deal with this all the time because he's like an ENT. But he was like, there's nothing I can do. He's like, I'm sorry. He's trying to like take my history. And then I get a text from my dad. He's like driving behind me in the ambulance. We were at like a stop sign, and I get a text from my dad, and he goes, did everyone already vote for prom court? Because he knows me. And I was like, yeah, we voted on Friday. We had voted the day before this happened to me. And he goes, man, timing's everything. Like, he's like, you should have dislocated your knee a day before so you could have got all the sympathy votes. And that made me laugh really hard. And that I always remember that because it was like the perfect timing for that situation, because literally that's all I was thinking about was like prom. So we get to the hospital. It was like a 30-minute trip because again, I lived in a very small town and the best hospital was 30 minutes away. So I'm in this 30-minute ambulance ride. They take me into the hospital. I get a bed. They're like doing all these x-rays. They're like asking me what happened. And they're like, well, basically you hyperextended your knee. They took x-rays And they come back and they go, I'm gonna start crying thinking about this, because in this moment you have to understand, like, just picture your 16-year-old self and being told something like this. So they come in the room after I did the x-rays. Oh, by the way, my sister's probably gonna watch this, but I don't care because she was horrible that day. So my mom and my sister rushed out of their shopping trip to like come. My sister was also 17 at the time, so like I don't really blame her for being horrible, but like I was so mad at her that day. So my sister and my mom come rushing in. My mom's like, oh my God, are you okay? And my sister is like being so rude to me. She was being so mean. And at one point she was like complaining. She was like, I want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in the hospital. I just want to go home. But I was like, girl, like we all want to go home. We all don't want to, I don't want to be here either. And she looked me dead in my face and she goes, why are you being such a bitch today? I am laying in a hospital bed with a dislocated knee the week before prom, and I'm like, what? I was like, what do you mean? Why am I being a bitch today? I was like, did your knee pop out of here? And I started yelling at her, and my dad was like, why don't you take her sister home? Like, why don't we get the sister out of here? Because I've never felt rage like that towards my sister until that day. In her defense though, I got hurt a lot, so I understand why if she hadn't have been there to see the whole thing happen, she maybe didn't understand the severity of the situation. So my mom took my sister home, and my dad stayed with me, and my dad was like talking to me, and we were like trying to be fine. And then they come in and they're like, okay, so what happened was you hyperextended your knee when you were dancing. I just told them I was dancing. I didn't explain the scarecrow thing because I didn't think they'd care. They're like, you hyperextended your knee when you were dancing, which caused you to dislocate your knee. And when you were bringing your knee back in, or at some point when it came out, you fractured your kneecap. And I was just like, what about prom? Like, I swear to God, the only thing I cared about was prom. And because it was literally in a week, it was exactly 7 days away. I'm like, what about prom? And the doctor looks me in the face and he's like, sweetie, when's your prom? And I was like, it's like in a week from now. And he was like, I don't think you're gonna make it to prom. And oh my God, it's like they told me I had to amputate it. Like, I literally I lost it. Like, I was just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, and they were like, we're gonna leave. And then I was just crying and crying and crying. And I'll never forget this, like, random nurse came in, or I don't know who she was. She walked by my room and she wasn't supposed to like come in and talk to me. I think maybe she was like a social worker. Interesting. I think she was like something. She was walking by and she saw me crying hysterically, and she came in, and I think she thought that I had just gotten some like really bad news. To me, I had. She didn't seem impressed when I told her the news, but I told her. She walks in, she's like, sweetie, like, what's wrong? And I'm like, they told me I can't go to prom. And she was like, oh my God, like, there's people dying. Like, honestly, like, I was being so annoying. And I was like, they told me I'm not gonna be able to go to my prom. And she was like, sweetie, like, it's in a week. She's like, you never know what can happen. I'm sure we'll try to figure something out. She's like, whatever. And I'm like, okay, but they told me. And she's like, don't worry. She's like, everything will be fine. She was like, you gotta focus on getting out of here, getting better. And I was like, okay. I was feeling okay. Like, when I had it resting in the hospital bed, I was feeling fine. And I got out of the bed, and I've never cried this much. Like, this was so much pain. I was literally crying. I couldn't get to the car. They had to use a wheelchair to like get me to the car. My dad brought the car around, getting me in the car, because I had to like lay across the back seat of our van, and I was just like crying and crying and crying, and I was so miserable. I was so upset, and because it hurt like so bad. Got home, like took pain pills. Don't really remember the rest of the weekend, because I was just taking pain pills. And then Monday I was like, I'm going to school. And my mom was like, you're not going to school. And I was like, yes, I am. And my mom, they had like a wheelchair. My mom has a wheelchair that she used to need. And so we had just a wheelchair. And my mom was like, you can bring the wheelchair to school and then you can use that, because using crutches for something like a knee injury is like really, especially when it just happened, is like really uncomfortable and bad. And so I brought the wheelchair to school with me and all my friends pushed me around, and everyone was like, what happened? And all of the teachers were like, what about prom? Because this is all they had heard me talking about for the past 6 months. And I was freaking out, and I had a doctor's appointment the next day. I went to the doctor. They took more more x-rays of my knee, and it was starting to like, it was still hurting really bad. And that's why they were like concerned, because they were like, you know, usually with a dislocation, you should feel like better. And they were like, we know you fractured it, but it was just like a chip. It was like a fractured chip. So they were like, you know, why is it still hurting this bad? And so they took the x-rays, and then the guy comes in and he's like, you're gonna need surgery and on your knee. You're gonna need to have knee surgery. And I was like, no. I was like, when? He was like, we really should do it as soon as possible. Because what had happened was when I had gotten the like knee pushed back in, it had chipped on like a side of a bone. I don't remember what happened. But he was like, you're gonna have to like have surgery. And I'd never had surgery before, like major. I'd never had like major surgery ever. And I was like, oh my God. And I told the doctor, I was like, prom is in a week. I was like, less than a week now. I was like, I have a dress. I was like, I have a date, my first date. I was like, I am on prom court. I was like, I bought the limo. Like I had all of this stuff planned. I was like, what am I going to do about prom? And he basically was like, okay. He was, cause I was in distress, and my mom was like, you're not going. We're not going to risk your health. And I was like, it's just a knee. I was like, it'll be fine. And he was basically like, we'll see how you are when you come back. Cause I had to come back for like a pre-op something. It was like something. I had to go back Friday, and that was the day before prom. So the whole time I'm like freaking out. The whole week I'm just miserable. I'm filled with anxiety. My knee hurts. I'm sad. It's just like a whole 16-year-old me was like really struggling. Friday went in, and he was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, fine. I was not fine. I was in so much pain. And I was like, you know, I was like I was doing the best I could to like convince him. And he was like, all right. He was like, I think that if you use the wheelchair, and he was like, and you don't try and like dance, he was like, and you don't try to do anything crazy, he was like, you can go to prom. And oh my God, I'll never forget the moment. I was like, I get to go. And I was like freaking out. I texted all my friends. I was like, I'm going to prom. I was like, nothing's gonna stop me. And then on the drive home, I was like, Mom, I was like, I can't just go to prom like looking like this. I was like, I look terrible. I was like, I have this huge, gigantic knee brace. I was like, my crutches in the wheelchair are ugly. Like all of the pictures are gonna be ruined. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And my mom was like, I love my mom. My mom was like, well, she was like, let's like stop at a craft store and let's see if we can like decorate the wheelchair. So we stopped at this craft store, and we got, I'll have pictures because I still have pictures. We got so much stuff. We got like all of this like pink glitter, we got like pink sides, we got ribbons, we got pink neon pink duct tape, we got like silver duct tape, we got all of this stuff. We like had all of this, and we got home that night, and she helped me, and we tricked out that wheelchair. It was the coolest wheelchair. I had like the spurs, I like wrapped pink and silver duct tape around, because my dress was pink and silver, so I made it like match my dress. I had like wrapped duct tape around my the spurs. I put a sign on the back that said like Hot Wheels hands. I swear to God, this all happened. This is real. Decked this out. Like I decked out all of it. And it took me so long too, because I couldn't really I didn't really have a lot of mobility, but like I decked this whole thing out. I decked out the wheelchair, I decked everything out, and it was amazing. And then the next day was prom, the morning of. So my mom, I had a hair appointment at like 1 p.m. And we brought my dress because I was gonna have to change in the car because it was like a tight appointment. And we went, I got my hair done. I looked beautiful. I think he felt terrible for me because I told him the whole story of why I was in a wheelchair. And I was just like, I felt like a princess. It was unfortunate because he like pampered me, it took really long, and so we ran overtime, and so everybody's already at my friend's house like taking pictures with the limo, and I had to like change in the back of a car, which is really difficult when your knee is dislocated. And so I was like changing in the back of my car, putting on this like huge dress. Like I'll put a picture of like me and a bunch of other people so you guys can see in comparison to everyone else how big this dress was. Like it was so large. I'm like shoving the tool down. My sister had done my makeup, so I'm like touching up my makeup because I didn't do makeup back then. And I'm like texting my date, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, like I'm running late. And he's like, obviously you're fine, like everything's gonna be fine. And I got there, and we all took pictures, and it was so fun. I was with all of my best friends. We got this big big limo together. It was so much fun. We went to like a bunch of different places to like take pictures because there's a lot of really pretty lakes around where we live. So we went to like a couple different lakes and I was like limping around. I was getting pushed around in the wheelchair. I was like trying to walk. I was like standing. I was really, and by the way, the day of our prom, I'm not kidding. We were supposed to go mini golfing before, but we kind of nixed that because of the wheelchair. But we were supposed to go mini golfing the day, like that day in the prom dresses because we thought the pictures would be really cute if we were like at a mini golf course. But it was over 100 degrees that day. It was like one of the hottest days we've ever had in the month of May. And it was just ridiculously hot. We were all sweating. So anytime I had to use the crutches, it was just disgusting because it was so hot and sweaty. And my dress was like 900 pounds. So it was just like so uncomfortable on the inside. My hair was completely ruined by the time we got to prom because of all the like outdoor pictures. But we got some really cute pictures and it was a lot of fun. We had such a good time. Like we just like jammed out in the limo and like we were having a great time. We got to the actual hotel where our prom was and we met up with like the rest of our class and we're all like hugging and everybody's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm so good. And we're all like, oh my God, it's prom. And I was on like prom committee too. So I like helped plan stuff. So I kind of knew like what to expect, but it was just like so surreal, like being there. Like I was like, oh my God, this is the day I've been waiting 6 months for. Like I was so hyped. And there's this thing that my school does that I think is kind of unique to my school. I don't know if other schools do this. I think because we have so little kids, it's not really hard to do something like this. But basically everybody in class who was like there, we did this thing called the junior walk. And it was where all of the parents would be there for the beginning of the thing because this is when the crowning ceremony happened too. So all of the parents, the whole ballroom was like full of parents. This is such a small town thing. There's no way big schools do this. There was like, the room was filled with everyone in our class's parents, like ready to take pictures. And they do this thing called the junior walk. And it's where they call every single kid in the class that came by name and they say their date. And they're like, this is, you know, so-and-so with so-and-so. And if it was like a boy and the girl who were both juniors, they would just get called together. It wasn't like a thing. But so I have a last name that's very close to the end of the alphabet. And so I was like one of the last people to go. And I turned to my date and I had like hobbled up until this point. Like I was able to put like minimal amounts of pressure on my leg. And I turned to him and I was like, I really want to walk. I was like, I've waited so long to do this. I was like, I really, really, really just, and also I'm dramatic. So of course I wanted to like do something like really extra. And I turned to him and I was like, I really, really, really want to walk. I was like, I've dreamed about this moment because I dreamed about the junior walk and like being a part of the junior walk, like since I was a freshman. Like I was so freaking excited to do this. And I was like, I've dreamed about this moment. I was like, I really don't want to just like go in a wheelchair. And he was like, I mean, I'll help you. He was like, but like, I don't want to be responsible if you like fall and like break your knee again. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. So we get to the front of the line and they're like, Hannah, blah, 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 and like, and her date. And they said his name. And then all of a sudden I like stand up and everybody in the crowd I'm so dramatic. Like, why did I do this? I'm literally the most extra person. I didn't need to be this dramatic about it. Like, I could have just gotten wheeled down, but like little old me was like, gotta have my moment. And everyone in the crowd was like, because everyone knew what had happened because it's a small town. So all the parents had already known like what had happened. Most of the kids that were at the party were also in my class. So they had like went home and told their parents like, oh my God, Hannah like dislocated her knee. And all of the parents and everyone, all the teachers, they're like, whoa, they're like screaming for me. And my dad tells this story so funny because my mom turns to my dad. This just explains their dynamic so perfectly, I think. My mom turns to my dad and she's crying and she goes, she's walking. And my dad was like, yeah, of course she is. It was never a question that she's gonna walk again. He was like, it's not like she got in this like horrible like accident. He was like, of course she's walking. And it was just funny. But everyone was like screaming. They were like, yes. And everyone was like so excited for me and I was living my best life. Then I really quickly, because if you were on prom court, you had to do the walk again because they couldn't just make it easy on the person with a dislocated knee. So I had to like sprint back around. I didn't sprint, obviously. I got pushed. I sat down in the chair because they had the chair following me the whole time in case I like fell over because I really wasn't supposed to be walking. That was like the one thing my doctor told me not to do. And so then I got called to do the like prom court walk down to the edge, and I like got wheeled, and then I stood because I could stand for like pictures, thank God. So I was standing in the line with all of the other girls, and we all have like our hands on our hips, and we're all like, you know, wearing our big dresses. And still at this point, and to be perfectly frank with you guys, like I really didn't probably deserve to win this. Like my friend Amber is one of the nicest people on the entire planet. She's literally the kindest soul, and it was her birthday. Okay, and so they're like, at this whole time everyone is like, Amber's gonna win, we can't wait for Amber to win, like all of this. And like I was so excited for her. I was like, Amber's gonna win, like it's gonna be so great. We were all like hype, and then we're standing there, we're smiling, and we all got handed like a bouquet or something, and all of a sudden they're calling, and they go, and and it's James was prom king, the kid I'm still friends with. He lives in New York City now, but I miss him so much. He's such a good kid. They're like, and it was like we all knew we all knew it was gonna be James and Amber, like we just knew. And they were like, and the prom king is James, and we were all like, well, what a shock. Like of course he was like literally he was like unanimously the most liked person in our grade. Like he was just friends with everyone. He was so nice to everyone. Like unanimously we all knew it was probably gonna go to him. And we're all standing there and we're smiling and we're like posing for all the pictures, and then they go, and the prom queen is, and they're like, Hannah, and they say my last name, and it literally, I have the picture of my face when I found out, and I literally was so, I think the best word would be shook. I was literally so shooketh. I literally started crying. Like this isn't a joke. Like I hate myself when telling this story because I sound so like melodramatic, and I was, so like I guess that's why I sound that way. But I stand there for a minute and I'm like shook. And my friend Biz turns to me and she goes, Hannah, she's like, would you smile? And so then I pull one of these, like a crazy smile, and I'm crying. I'm literally crying. I like hobble over. I'm like holding on to the girl that's like right next to me. I hobble over to the chair because they have like a chair set up. They put the crown on my head. They hand me this like big thing of roses, and I'm just looking at James, and James is just like laughing at me because we were really good friends. We still are, but he's just laughing at me. He's like, what? He's like, stop being like this. Like stop making a big deal out of this. But I was just like, I was crying. I was like so excited. I look out, my mom is crying. Like my mom is literally like losing her mind. Everyone's cheering. It was so exciting. They put like the sash on me. I still have the freaking sash. Like this still means a lot to me. It was a really cool moment because just like if you knew my whole story of like first starting at this school to like this moment, like it was a lot. Like I was not a well-liked person when I first got to this school. So it was just like a really dope moment. And I turned to Amber and she was smiling for me because she's the nicest person on the planet, and she was so nice. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she was like, don't be sorry, you idiot. She was like, it's just prom, like it doesn't matter. She was so freaking nice because she's still one of my best friends because she's like literally the nicest person on the planet. And so then we like had to do the dance, and our song was Don't Want to Miss a Thing. That song that's like,
I don't want to close my eyes.
could not be more of a freaking movie. Like I swear nobody's gonna believe me that this happened. Like this sounds like a teen movie, like a bad teen movie. And so they're playing that song, and James and Amber had gone to prom together. They were each other's dates because they've been best friends since they were like 3 years old. So halfway through the song he's like, I gotta go dance with Amber really quick, because everyone was like dancing with each other. Like it starts with the king and queen, and then the court joins in, and then the whole class joins in. It's like a thing. And so it's like a wedding basically. And so he like leaves me, and I'm standing there putting all my weight on one leg, and I'm looking around, and I literally can't find my date. My date was gone. So there's a really great picture that I think sums up my life in high school, which was the hashtag forever alone. And it's just everyone around me being in love, dancing with their person, like having a great time, and me literally being like this because I just couldn't find anyone. Nobody was there to dance with me. The rest of the night was absolutely fantastic. I jammed in my wheelchair. I was basically like, everyone pushed me to like the center of the circle. Like there was like circles happening where people were just like dancing, and I just got pushed to the center of the circle, and I was just dancing and just having a great time. And it was a lot of fun. It was a really good time. It was just a dope, like it was just a lot of fun. We just had a really, really, really great time. The whole night ended up being like so much fun. Like I still remember it. Like I just danced the entire night. Like it was just so much fun. And then we went to after prom, which I realized recently is not a thing at most schools, but it was basically a way to deter kids from like drinking and driving, which I think is super smart, where they like had all of these activities set up at the school. They had like bounce houses and like things I couldn't do because I was in a wheelchair, and they had like a hypnotist come and I couldn't do that because I was in a wheelchair, and it was like a whole thing. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and then I went to my best friend Biz's for a sleepover with like all of my friends, and we got breakfast, and it was just like, it was truly like everything I had like painted it up to be. Like, I think looking back, it was honestly such a good night. And then a week, like 4 days later, I had dead surgery on my knee, and then I had to recover for like 2 weeks. I had like a 2 week, it was a 3-month recovery period, but I had to not be in school for 2 weeks. So by the time I got back, everyone had forgotten about me. It was really like, it was so fun. It was such a fun experience. It was such a fun day, like such a fun day. We ended up having a really, really, really good time, and like it truly was like such a fun night. Looking back, was it the best night of my entire life? Absolutely not. Like, as an adult, I'm like, yeah, it was like fun, and I have really good memories from that day because it was such a fun day with my friends. But obviously, I have better memories now. But it's still kind of, it's just like a funny story because whenever, and I still have a really large scar on my knee. Like, I have a really, really big scar on my knee. If you guys ever see my knees for whatever reason, I don't know why you would see that there's a very big scar there. It's just a funny story. Like, it's always a funny thing to tell people. When the scar was a lot more prominent, because it's kind of like a little bit more hidden now than it used to be, but when it was more prominent, people would ask me about it, and I'd be like, I can't even tell you the story because it's so long and ridiculous and crazy, but it was a good one. It was a really good one. This is our scarf. I think we're almost done. I think if we do one more story time before Christmas, Charles is gonna get his scarf before Christmas. Not that he's ever gonna wear it, because he doesn't wear scarves, but he's gonna get one before Christmas. All right, friends, that was another knitting story time. I hope you guys liked this video. I know it was really melodramatic and like all of my teenage years just coming out in like full force, but I had a lot of fun telling it to you guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just like, or just subscribe, or do neither. I'm honestly just so happy you're watching me. Thank you for being here. Happy Glowmas, my loves. Happy Christmas. Happy holidays. I love you guys so, so much. My merch, my social medias, all of this fun stuff. I don't really have anything to link in this video because I'm not wearing anything on my face because we don't do makeup when we knit. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!